In this video, we're going to start looking at testing a claim about a mean, and specifically we are going to look at testing a claim about a mean when the value of sigma, and remember sigma is the population standard deviation, we're going to look at that when that value of sigma is not known. So we're doing a hypothesis test. Here we want to test this claim about a mean. So we want to say the mean is greater than a value, or it's less than a value, or it's equal to a value, or it's not equal to a value, or it's greater than or equal to a value, or less than or equal to a value. So that's what we're going to do here in this video. We're going to talk about the general structure of how to go about doing that. Now, when we test a claim about a mean, when the value of sigma, again, is not known, then our test statistic is a t-statistic. That t-statistic is calculated in this way. So we take the sample mean. So we have our sample mean minus the hypothesized mean. And we divide that all by the sample standard deviation over the square root of the sample size. So that is how we calculate that test statistic. When we look at when that value of sigma is known, the only thing that's going to be different there is we'll have a z-statistic instead. So we'll have a normal distribution. And instead of having a sample standard deviation there in the denominator, right here, instead of that being a sample standard deviation, when we know the value of sigma, that will be a population standard deviation. But here we don't know the value of sigma, and so we have our mean. We have our sample. We can find the sample mean, the sample size, the sample standard deviation, and we have a hypothesized mean. For this, we need to have a normal distribution, or we need to have a sample larger than 30. If we want to use Statistic to test a hypothesis about a mean when sigma is not known, what we will do first is we will first identify the null and alternative hypothesis. So we do those in exactly the same way we've done before. We will want to identify the significance level. We'll need to identify that claimed mean. And that claimed mean is going to come from the null hypothesis. We need to identify the sample size. And we need to identify the sample mean, and finally identify that sample standard deviation. So we identify those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different things. Then once we get to Statistic, we'll choose analysis, hypothesis test, mean, one sample. We will input those 5 different things. And then the output from Statistic will be the test statistic, it will be the critical value, and the t-values. So those critical values will be t-values, and it will output a p-value and an associated confidence interval. So that's what we will do. That's what's going to happen there. And so in our next video, we're going to take a look at this example. All right, I will see you there.